Morning, good evening. I'm not really sure where everyone is at. Just want to say really good rising, good day, and as the sun's setting, good evening to each and every one of you all over the world. And I'm really honored and grateful to be here. This are the ancestral homelands of the Nisenan people. So I just want to start by acknowledging the Nisenan people here and say the names of the tribal leaders, Shelley Covert and Ginger Covert. And just want to say thank you to the Nisenan, Shelley Covert, Ginger Covert, and may all of our learning here, everything that we do here, send a rippling effect into the people here, the Nisenan people, for federal recognition. And everything that we do here is an offering in support of that federal recognition for the Nisenan tribe. And in that way, I just want to acknowledge and say greetings to all of the tribal people from all of the places that you all are at, and acknowledging all the indigenous communities that have been keeping these ceremonies and these prayers and these technologies moving forward. Just want to say thank you so much. And we just want to offer some cedar right now to all of really the ancestral homelands we're guests at, and all the indigenous voices and teachers and guides. That's for all of them here right now. Thank you. And then I'd like to also greet all of our ancestors, all our benevolent ancestors in this room here, in this home, and also around the world, and say thank you to all of our benevolent ancestors for dreaming us into being and dreaming us into this exact configuration, exactly how it is on this day. Tuesday, March, what's the date today? Tuesday, March 17th, 2020. So say thank you to all of our benevolent ancestors and guides. Thank you so much. And I want to make an offering here for all of you. Let's make another offering of cedar. And I just want to say greetings to the cedar here. The cedar comes from around this place that we live, Nevada City, California. Ulicha, that's the Nisenan name for these lands, Ulicha. And the cedar here, we harvested and we dried all of our standing wind protectors. They're right around this home. And every time we go to gather some cedar, it's either cedar that the wind dropped along the grounds for us to gather and then we dry, or we make an offering to the standing winds themselves before we harvest cedar. And I just want to say that because I feel like that's really important as we're learning how to be in right relationship with the ecosystem and learning how to be part of the ecosystem again. So I just want to say thank you to the standing winds, to the cedar. And then I also want to say thank you to my personal teachers. Something that I've been taught over and over again in ritual is it's important to say the names of your teachers. I have a lot of teachers over the years. I'm going to say the names of the teachers that have really taught me in relation to the technology that we're going to go through today. Because there's so many, it's hard to name, but the ones that have been part of this particular technology coming forward: William J. Kiesel. Just want to say thank you to William. Goodney and Lori Goodnesson. Just want to say thank you to Goodney and Lori here at this time. Marza Millar, love you, Marza. Thank you so much. Hector Gomez. Thank you, Hector Gomez. Celia Gomez, Julian, the family. Quatli Vasquez. I want to say thank you, Quatli. And then also all the lineage teachers that have been carrying forward the Hermetic Kabbalistic traditions. And I want to say thank you to Normandy Ellis and Mahmoud Koder. So let's make an offering of this frankincense for all of my teachers, and in that way honoring all of our teachers here. And I feel like it's really a gift, the way that these technologies and teachings have been coming to us. And you know, as we're learning about our ancestors, like our grandmothers, our grandfathers, and the lineages of our grandmothers and grandfathers from our mom's side and our dad's side, and learning our family tree, or the tree of life in our ancestral roots, we're learning about how to be in right relationship with ritual and ceremony being mixed blood, and how to authentically honor our own appreciate and honor our own cultural ritual stories and technologies, as well as learning how to honor and appreciate the ones that are coming into our lives or that we attract. And part of our responsibility with ritual technologies is to be incredibly mindful and heartful about the time and the care and the tending to every little detail in every way, shape, and form. You know, one of the things that one of my teachers said to me that I really love and value is know where everything came from, know who made it, how it comes to your altar, why it's there, what its purpose is, what its function is, how it supports you and supports one in cultivating the inner temple work, because the inner temple work is the outer temple work. The more we do the inner work and we tend to and learn how to care for the microcosmic cosmological landscape of our inner temple, that helps us in learning how to care for and tend to the macrocosmic landscape of the temple of life, because life is a ritual all day, every day. We're doing rituals all day, every day. It's just, it shifts and adapts when we put a level of clarity and intention, prayer and manifestation inside these daily rituals that we do every day. And so we're going to walk through some of that here. One of the things that I do want to share is this practice and this work takes time, and it takes tending. It's not some going online to like research how to do something and find out how to do it real quick. That can be tricky and confusing, primarily because there's so many different ways to do things. And sometimes, you know, one of the things that I feel like the coronavirus is teaching us is, in the world of open source, when there's so much option, so much possibility, we can go online and get that and talk to our friend and get that, and we're constantly getting and getting and getting, it can lead to forgetting, and also a lack of care and tending to refinement, cultivation, and real honing of a craft in a real way. And so part of why it felt like a good time to bring these forward is to support us in honing our craft that's on the inside that becomes the craft that's on the outside. So before we begin, I just want to say the name of Tahuti, sometimes known as Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, one of them, really a shortened version, a catchphrase of the Emerald Tablet. I'm just going to speak this out loud. There's more to it too, but I'm just going to say this part. As within, so without. That which is above is that which is below. When the two become one, then we enter the kingdom of heaven, or the queendom of heaven. So we're learning about the inner temple, that's the outer temple, the cosmological majesty of creation that's above, and the cosmological majesty of creation that's below. And then when we bring the two pillars, the two dualistic sides of ourselves, and when we bring them together, all of those parts, inside, outside, above, below, the two become one, then we enter the kingdom and the queendom of heaven. This tablet is very much related to this map, the tree of life. So is there a way to like show this up close? So we're gonna walk through, in the art of ritual, this map of the tree of life. And it's become increasingly clear that soon I'm going to go through a series of classes related to the tree, because it's not really possible to go through all of it today. But we're just going to imprint this glyph into our consciousness. So Roxy's getting the glyph up now. And then what I invite you to do when you see this glyph is literally to just stare at it. And, oh, cool. She's bringing that one in. Okay. Okay, cool. Just don't worry about the words right now. Just imprint this divine blueprint, this glyph, this cosmological map of the universe, this cosmological map of consciousness. Imprint it into your consciousness. Don't worry about the words. And we're just going to do this for a few seconds here. And you can take a screenshot of it if you want. All right, so as we're imprinting this blueprint, this glyph into our consciousness, we are gaining access into the innate intelligence that resides in our inner temple, our inner heart, mind, body, and spirit. And as we're imprinting and really remembering this innate intelligence, this wisdom, and this understanding in our heart, mind, body, and spirit, we're waking up, we're activating, turning on, tuning in, more access to our DNA and awareness and intelligence that can support us and is useful for this time. Useful for this time and everything, moving forward and backward, time in all directions. And as we imprint this tree of life map of consciousness, we remember what we already know, and we open up and gain access into the nature of giving, and in giving, forgiving. Giving and forgiving, and back into the flow and reciprocity of creation. And in that way, we calm our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits too. Because as we go inside, that calming nature, that care, that inner relaxation, that grounding, that inner grounding, that supports us in our lives, our relationships, and everything we are doing moving forward. And in this way, grounding this blueprint of creation, the tree of life in our consciousness, we remember here that everything we imagine in the realm and line of manifestation becomes what we think, moves into thought, then to word, to deed, to habit, to behavior, and our destiny. What we imagine, that becomes thought, word, deed, habit, behavior, and then destiny. We remember the responsibility of how we tend to our inner temple, and how what we perceive influences and helps to manifest the beauty of the world. And here at this time, we call upon our higher selves, our highest selves, to merge with our physical selves for the benefit of making a life of offering of beauty. Here we call upon the powers of heaven and the powers of the universe to come down for the benefit of making our life an offering of beauty. And in this beauty way, weaving a web in consciousness, that we feel good about, that we love, that we care for, that we tend to, that we're proud of, as an offering for 7 generations in the future. May all that's cultivated here support us in our lives, our relations, and all of our relations moving forward 7 generations in the future. Blessed be Aho. Okay. Go ahead and open your eyes now. Blueprint. So what we're going to do is we're going to move through these spheres in ritual. I'm not going to talk that much about the spheres, but what we are going to do is introduce Lilith. Lilith is sometimes given a bad rap, and she's this serpent wisdom. You know, in some of the old stories, Lilith was the original creator of the Garden of Eden. She created the garden. And through a variety of situations, she got cast out of the garden. And Adam made Eve, and they kind of took over. One of the stories, I mean, I could talk about this story for hours, is that she came back as a serpent. You see her serpents here. She came back as a serpent to communicate to Eve what was actually going on. And then, of course, the serpents got demonized. And that's a whole story of the lineage of the forgotten ones. So at this moment, as we're going through this ritual and we're learning the technology of the ritual in the context of the tree of life, the divine blueprint that's in our internal system, that is the outer system, cosmological map of the universe, we are remembering the lineages of all the women and the mothers, all the life givers, all the forgotten ones, all the ones that have been cast out of society, all the ones that have been burned at the stake, all the ones that have been stoned and dethroned. And as we're going through this rite and this class today, we're remembering them. And Lilith is going to be our guide through these spheres. And so the sphere that's this map up here, this is the blueprint we're going through in the body, and we're going to walk it through in this ritual too. So here we start in the base. And in ritual technology, when we start in this, which is called Malkuth, the kingdom, we always acknowledge, first and foremost, the ancestral homelands we are guesting upon and living in. And in that way, acknowledging the living ancestors that are still supporting our rituals, and then also acknowledging our ancestors. Something that I was taught in the Hermetic Mystery School traditions is that we have a lot of guides on the other side. And one of the understandings that I've been taught is that they're here to support us in this time. You know, as we're, having to stay home, and as an act of service and an act of self-care and a preventative method, stay home, there's also these beings on the other side that can help us not only tend to a calming nature, tend to our health and immunity, and also tend to our relations. And one of the understandings is your benevolent ancestors and guides can't technically support you unless you ask them to. Because it's believed that there's a contract where they're already waiting, but until you ask them to be with you, they can't come and help. But part of them helping is also their work, because as we progress back into the light, which is back into death, because death becomes life, that becomes death again, that becomes life again. It's a feeding of energy. Simultaneously, our guides and angels are on that same path, and our ancestors. And when we work together, we're supporting the growth of our own lives, their lives, and the lives of all our relations. So here in this sphere, in Malkuth, this earthly realm, the kingdom, we acknowledge the ancestral homelands. We acknowledge our guides, allies, and ancestors. We call upon them. We ground ourselves. We acknowledge our teachers. And then oftentimes here, we call in the directions. Now we're going to do a different class just on directions, because something that Marza was teaching me that is part of the prophecies coming forward is that it's time to call in the 8 directional circle. And, we have our directions. I think most of us are used to east, south, west, and north. Depending on what country you're in will determine, and what culture tradition you work with will determine what direction you start with. One of the things that I've been shared with recently from Marza is that we need to work with different doorways, the cross quarters, which are northeast, etc. And so we're going to do next week, we're going to go into class just about that. And we're going to spend the entire hour and a half just going through the directions and the cross quarters, because this is where we get into setting up our magic circle and setting up our container. We did a container circle in the beginning, so we're not going to do this again, but we're going to focus on that next week. Okay? All right. So oftentimes when we're moving through the sphere in the art of ritual, we're moving this way. And I spoke about Lilith, which is the serpent path. So we're moving from the manifest realm to the unmanifest realm, the physical realm to the spirit realm. And as we move between each sphere, oftentimes I have an instrument that creates the sound and also supports the movement forward. So I'm bringing forth this one. This is a sistrum. And this instrument is these instruments you see in ancient Egypt. They're on the walls. Oftentimes there's only 3 different kinds of instruments that you see on the actual temples and the hieroglyphs. This is one of them. And this instrument is their healing rattle, and it's used for healing ceremonies. It's used to guide ritual. It's used to guide temple workings. So I'm going to use this instrument as we move from sphere to sphere. Mm-hmm. That instrument has the Egyptian deity, Egyptian goddess Het-Heru, sometimes known as Hathor, and we're going to talk more about her tomorrow in the Egyptian cosmology class. So let's remember to speak about Het-Heru. One of the things too, why I'm I'm saying some of these names right now is because this class is going to lead into tomorrow's class. It's also going to lead into the class after. So we're seeing how ritual technologies weave together, because our life is a web of relationships. We are constantly weaving all day, every day. Everything we're doing is moving forward. We're always moving forward. We're never going backward. However, as we're moving forward, if we have a level of healing and tending and care, it can help to heal everything moving backward from the past too. So it's a relationship of time, oracular time, as we're moving forward, manifesting as magicians walking in the world, the internal work, the inner temple work as priestess or priest work, and the shamanic work when we're doing the healing work helps to tend and heal things in the past. And something I want to speak about that too as we're moving forward, because we're now, well, let me move to the next sphere and then we'll get to that. Lilith, we're moving to Yesod. Yesod is about the foundation. So here in ritual, we really talk about the foundation of this ceremony, what this is about. Something I want to speak to that I started to allude to already is one of the things that's also, I feel, a very important responsibility for a lot of us is understanding the differences in terms of ritual technologies of magicians, high priestesses, oracles, shamans, oftentimes, and alchemists. Oftentimes they all get mixed up where it's like, I'm an alchemical magician, a magician oracle, or I'm a high priestess shaman. And I feel like that can be very confusing because all of these archetypes have different functions and purposes in ritual and in the life, building the life and culture we want to live in. And so we decided that we're going to do a class just on getting to know the differences of shamanic, what shamans do, what priestesses do, what oracles do, what magicians do. Part of it is because in ritual, in a life of ritual, a life of archetypal mythological living, we move through the archetypes. We're all fools. Each and every one of us are fools. And in the journey of life, we move through these archetypes that are necessary and useful to support us at what particular stage in the journey we're on. And so I feel like it's really important to discuss those. So that's going to be another Art of Ritual class moving forward. We're going to go through the archetypes. This particular ritual, I want to acknowledge today. Today is Tuesday. Tuesdays are often associated with Mars. So we're going to talk a little bit about Martian Mars energy. For those that haven't seen the symbol, it looks like a sun, a circle. I don't even know how this is being said. Just imagine a circle, and then it has an arrow pointing up, an arrow. So there's like a solar quality, because it's a circle, a sun, and then an arrow, which is an action, movement, forward, willful quality to it. Mars is very much about will and courage and what we're willing as magicians into manifestation. And that's a really important quality, I think, that we want to look at is, again, magicianship is when we're aligning our will and knowing in right relationship with the elements of creation and aligning our will with the divine with a focus on a path of service so that our offerings and what we're manifesting in the world can be of service and be of benefit and be of use to our lives, the lives of our relations and everything moving forward. And so that's something that's really important. And Martian energy is about how, oftentimes Mars is related to conflict and war, and I think that that's probably mostly what it's known for. It's also known about, represents, what are we standing for? If we need to stand with, what are we standing up for? That calls upon that fiery, willful energy to protect what we care for. And that's a lot about, obviously, what this is about in the world. I don't even feel like I need to address, obviously, what's going on with this viral spread. And what it's calling upon is our warrior nature. And on a Tuesday in the Art of Ritual, what does a peaceful warrior actually feel like? One of the really important prophecy codes that has been very influential in my life, I speak about it all the time to everyone in every class, in every situation, is the Shambhala Warrior Prophecy. There's a really great version of it by Joanna Macy. You can find it online. You can look up Shambhala Prophecy or Shambhala Warrior. And oftentimes, I'm going to speak a piece of it because it's important to listen to the prophecy from the beginning to the end. The reason why is because it's a code. I've listened to that prophecy at the minimum 100 times. I've been listening to it for years. I listen to it over and over and over again. Sometimes I'll just listen to it 3 or 4 times in a row because of the code, it unlocks certain intelligences in the body and awareness and awakening so that we start to embody what these prophecies or these realizations and these intelligence moving forward. So Martian energy, the warrior energy, calling upon the warrior nature to stand up for what we believe in, have the courage to stand and face the challenges and the suffering of the world with with insight into how interdependent all of creation is, human and non-human. It's being willing to stand up and face the suffering of the world with insight into the interdependent nature of all of creation, human and non-human. I feel like that's a lot of what this virus is teaching us about, how interdependent we are and how woven in this web we are. It's bringing it all to the surface. And part of what this prophecy is very much about on this day of this Martian energy is the power of the mind and the power of perception. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That is a Wayne Dyer quote that I also say like 10,000 times all the time, over and over again. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. What we perceive and how we perceive it, that then becomes what we say, that then moves into our actions, that then moves into our deeds, and then moves into our habits and our behaviors, and then our destiny, and a destiny in all our relations is so much connected to perception. This isn't saying, and obviously the center is the heart. I feel like that's a given. The center is the heart. Perception is everything. So many things are made by the human mind and they can be unmade by the human mind. So many things are made by the human mind and they can be unmade by the human mind. What is manifested in the world is very much related to our habits, our behaviors, and our priorities. What we prioritize and what we make a habit becomes what we manifest. We're almost like we are instruments, and it's are we instruments in relation to the divine, or are we instruments towards our subconscious ego that's running things? Really, that's why the inner temple work is so important. So as we're manifesting and doing the outer temple work, we're clear on the instrument that is moving forward and what kind of service and offering is being made moving forward. So that's a lot about what this day is. This is also, I want to look here real quick, class, a lot about what are some daily, I want to bring forward some daily rituals that everybody can go home with tomorrow and the next day and moving forward. So a foundational ritual that we all do every day is either wash dishes, wash our hands, or shower. And real quick on our house, if it's possible to use the other sink on the other side, that would be awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, so washing our hands, showering are things we do every day. Thank you to the holy waters of the world, this ever-flowing water that we are privileged to work with. And please, Creator God and all of our guides and allies, help bring clean water to all of those in need. Like, I just feel like I just want to say that. And may we become and remember that we are water protectors that help tend to the waters that can be available to everybody else. That is something each and every one of us is our job. So I just want to say that. Okay, so a daily ritual moving forward in the foundation, in this part of the tree right here, this is the birthing canal. This is where we birth into other realms of consciousness, other realms of intelligence. 2 and offer 3. First thing in the morning, as you all know, we need to be drinking a lot of water, right? That's warm water is another one that we've been told. We're still learning about what's real information and what's not. But water, we know. We need to drink a lot of water. So first thing in the morning, before you look at your phone, before you have a conversation, get your cup of water right here. I have this one. I love this glass. It's my favorite glass. Get your glass of water, your cup of water. Make a prayer to saying thank you to the Holy, and I'm going to speak about prayer because sometimes that word's triggering because the prayer as a word has been colonized. So we're going to talk about that a little later. But for the context of this ritual being passed, say some good things to the water, like acknowledge the holy water. Thank you, holy water. Thank you so much, water of life. Thank you for my life. Thank you for just this ever-flowing privilege that I experience by getting to be with you every day and easily get to be with you every day, all day, and thinking about all of those that don't have access like this. And just want to acknowledge that, and, you know, calling upon this time to bring clean, holy, clean water to all of the humans and non-humans. too. Thinking about all the whales and all the swimming ones. You know, take some time to like talk to the water. And then also you can say to the water, because as I'm sure everyone in this group has heard of Masaru Emoto and the technologies of how to speak to water and how that water forms crystals that then form crystals in the water in the body, that then form crystals in the water that we are in relationship to. Water technology, we'll have another class just about that. But for the context of your daily ritual, make a prayer to the water. Say thank you to the water. Say thank you for the nourishment. Put some good thoughts and feelings and words, the power of your eloquent speech, into the water. And then offer to the earth first, and then offer to yourself. Thank you, water. So I'm just going to ask for a commitment for each and every one of you to do this every day. The reason why this is really useful to do for the very first thing in the morning is you are setting your day with your, what you imagine, what you think, the majesty of the holy water where we all come from and where we return to. And we are making a prayer for ourselves, for the water, and for creation moving forward. And then we're nourishing ourselves with that prayer. And so that is the first ritual practice I just want to offer to do every day. First thing, you're setting your day. The second one is when you are showering or bathing. Obviously, we're purifying ourselves. Are we purifying ourselves with consciousness? And so one of the rituals that Goodney Goodness had passed, and at first I was like, oh, that's obvious. I could do that. But then I realized when I started doing it every day, that changed my relationship with water. Sometimes the simplest of practices daily become the ones that change perception and thus change the world. So that simple practice in the shower, you soap everything, but obviously don't take a 30-minute shower, make it quick because we don't want to, obsessively overuse too much water, even though the same water that's in the cup that we're drinking right now is the water that our grandfathers drank in their tea. Water's constantly circulating. Anyways, moving forward, soap everything, soap your body, turn 3 times clockwise in the motion of increase, growing, and say, I purify myself with this water. I purify myself with this water. I purify myself with this water. You got that? Soap up everything, including your hair, all of it. Move in the clockwise motion. I purify and cleanse myself with this water. I purify and cleanse myself with this water. I purify and cleanse myself with this water. And then at that moment, say thank you to the water. Thank you for its support in your life. So those are 2 rituals that are things we already do almost. I don't know if people shower every day, but we definitely drink water every day. 2 things that we can integrate in our daily lives as a daily ritual practice. All right, moving forward. Anything you want, Sonia? Oh yeah, go for it. Is this the right way? This way. So we're moving Lilith. We're doing the serpent path in ritual. Every sphere of consciousness that we move is the serpent path, from the manifest to the unmanifest, from the physical to the spirit world, from the most gross to the most subtle, the most dense to the most light. All right, so moving towards this sphere is called Hod. This is also the realm of the intellect. I'm not going to go too far into Kabbalah because we're going to do another course on that. For the context of this particular art ritual class, this is associated with innate intelligences. In the Egyptian Hermetic traditions, it is spoken that it's outlined that we have 32 intelligences that we're constantly in relation with. And from those 32 intelligences is a rippling effect of 360 senses and more. And we'll get to the sense part after. So this particular day, in relationship to this particular rite, which was about calling upon the warrior nature that has insight into the interdependent web of relationships, that is aware of what we imagine becomes thought, becomes word, becomes deed, habit, behavior, and destiny. That is what this ritual is about. We're going to acknowledge specific intelligence qualities that you can take home as a meditation and to meditate on every day if you wish. The first one, and this is very much a Kabbalistic mapping. I'm not going to go over it too much, but this is from the Hermetic Kabbalistic tradition. The first intelligence is faithful intelligence, calling upon faithful intelligence, the faith. Everybody in this circle knows about faith. Don't pretend that you don't. And if there's an element of doubt with faith, this is where you take care of that. And a really good way to take care of a feeling of doubt, if you are having it, is the fire is key. Oftentimes when we light a fire, or it can be a candle, you can release what you need into the fire. So if there's a quality of doubt coming in, sometimes what I'll do is I'll find a medicine that I already have in my house that represents that. We're not going to get too deep into medicines. We're going to do this in another class. But for instance, an example is going to be the cedar, because I spoke about cedar. So may I have some right now? So one thing you can do if you're having a hard time cultivating faithful intelligence that is already in your body, so you already have it, you already know it, it's just remembering, is you can hold a little medicine. You don't need very much. It can be a little tobacco even, or it can be some cedar, or it can be some frankincense, or yerba santa, or the rosemary that's growing outside. It can be something that's around your home. You don't need to go buy anything. It's just something that's close to you that you feel connected to, that's of the earth. One thing you can do is say, right now, having a moment with doubt, and I'm just asking, I'm with this medicine here, with this fire, I release doubt. I let the doubt go. I give this doubt as food out of my body to transform and be nourishment in another way. I release the doubt. And you can keep saying that over and over again, and then you offer the medicine to the fire. You can spend as much time speaking that as you want. And it's really just about the art of letting it go. And why the power of the word is important, because sometimes if we just keep it in our mind, it's not as clear. Because when we move from the imagination, that divine spark of imagination that becomes our thoughts and these swirling realm of thoughts, and we speak it into word, that is a very powerful moment of manifestation, where we're manifesting. That's the first step in manifestation in magicianship work. So when we're using the power of word, we're using that power, that empowerment to take care of ourselves. So use your words with yourself. So that's one offering you can do if some doubts coming up around faithful intelligence. And then another one, I'm going to always acknowledge Jaidev Singh and the Life Force Academy. If you have not discovered the Life Force Academy, highly recommend go do it. $1 for 14 days. Try them out. You know, here in this home, we do Kundalini every day. First thing we did Kundalini before we started. Kundalini is a very useful practice to clean out anything in the subconscious that needs to be cleaned out, as well as everything else. All right. The next intelligence that's associated in this context of this ritual is subtle, sustaining intelligence. The cultivation of subtle, sustaining intelligence. And that is so much about, in my opinion, slowing down, paying attention, the art of paying attention, the art of deep listening, the art of internal awareness, the art of what our internal awareness is revealing to us in the physical realm, and the art of how we are influencing the world that's manifested before us. Subtle, sustaining intelligence, and cultivating practices that help open up and help us strengthen and become more aware of the subtleties of the manifested world, the internal world and the natural world. And as we open up more awareness in the subtle energies, how we can sustain and support a thriving forward movement for our lives through certain practices. Because another intelligence that's in this particular sphere, I love this, it's called secret of the spiritual activities. The intelligence is the secret of the spiritual activities. And that relates to subtle, sustaining intelligence. Practices that call upon our heart, mind, body, and spirit, where those four bodies are in alignment and active and discovering themselves and coming into fullness of expression, the cultivation of those bodies is where we feel that spirit, you know, that is the spiritual practice. So secrets of the spiritual activities is an intelligence. Each and every one of you here in this group have different lineages, I'm sure. And we have lineages that we share and different ancestors and different ancestral homelands. And this would be a good time to get to know your family tree that is your immediate blood family and the family tree of your ancestors. You know, one of my dear friends, Rotendo, she was telling me about one of the things in the Kemetic Egyptian ritual practices they do is they tap into their grandmother and their grandmothers and grandfathers on their mom and dad sides, and hone in on grandma and grandpa on mom's side, grandma and grandpa on dad's side, and get to know the stories of grandma and grandpa on both sides and their ancestral lineages. And then that helps call upon or bring forward the natural relationship of the spirit of your bloodline that then calls forward the practices that help support the embodiment of this work that we're doing. And if you want some very specific practices moving forward, you can just make a note on this, right? They can write a note on this. Mm-hmm. And then I'm happy to send some more practices for this. But we're going to keep moving forward. For the ancestral work. Yeah, for the ancestral work. And then also the secrets of the spiritual activities that help to awaken the subtle energy, subtle awareness, and sustaining of and support of the vehicle, the chariot, your body, that also help call upon faithful awareness, where our faith is like thriving. Because that faith is, and that consciousness and awareness taps into the web of consciousness that we spoke about earlier, where how all things are interdependent, interrelated. That consciousness makes an offering into the web of consciousness too. So it's where the inner temple, that's the outer temple. As within, so without. That's a lot of what we're practicing on, focusing on. Okay, so now we're gonna make an offering of this frankincense. And this frankincense, my dear friends Mark and Elijah Sage, we went to Oman and we went to meet these frankincense trees. We traveled for 3 weeks, all the way to Salalah. And this frankincense, it's called the tears of the frankincense tree. We actually saw the tree bleed these resins. And so I just want to acknowledge Oman and the spirit of this frankincense here. This frankincense, if you have some, is a very useful medicine to support you in anything you need, building immunity, like building your protection circle, supporting your respiratory system, like it crossing into the blood-brain barrier, helping to tend to any traumas or dynamics or concerns in the mind and helping to calm it. If you have some frankincense, use it. And if you need some or you want some, let us know and we can support you in getting that. As with all medicines, you don't need a lot. A little goes a long way. I feel like right now in the culture of magic that's sort of growing, we're overusing the sage, we're overusing all these medicines unnecessarily to the point where it's not even as accessible for some of the indigenous communities because we're over harvesting and over buying. That's requiring all the harvesting, that's making it less available to the people that have been cultivating it. So it's a really good reminder that a little goes a long way. We don't need much. Okay? All right. Moving forward, we're going to move the lift over. All right. So we move Lilith over to this sphere called Netzach. She's also very much related to the intelligence of the natural world. She's also related to the emotions, which is another way to get to know emotions is energy in motion. So what I want to do is this essential oil. One of the things the ancient Egyptians believed, they were very big essential oil advocates. Again, little goes a long way. We don't need much because there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of plants in this little bottle. Every drop is like gold because there's so much in every drop, and it took a long time for this blue lotus to get here. So again, a little goes a long way. The Egyptians believed that we had have access to over 360 senses. And in this time, with all that we're navigating all day, every day, opening up more access to these innate intelligences and these innate senses in our heart, mind, body, and spirit is very, very, very important and very useful, because it helps us innovate and come up with new solutions and ways to re-enter back into the ecosystem and become part of the ecosystem rather than mine and take from it. So I'm going to pass this around. If you have some essential oil at your home, highly recommended. This is Nefertum. Nefertum is the Egyptian god that is the blue lotus, that brings the blue lotus to the nose of Ra. And our dear friend and genius, Mark Abba, he is the steward of this company. And this is bringing back the ancestral ancient practices with essential oils. If you have some questions around essential oils, let us know. We're happy to support you in that too. This is where we start to work with the plants, and it can also be chewing too, to do that self-anointing, which is the awakening of these innate intelligences and this energy and motion in the body. You know, plant medicine is key at this point. Plant doesn't mean a plant medicine mindfully in variety of forms is key at this moment. You know, chewing the kale, the organic kale that you got from your local farm, and also inhaling this frankincense that's actual supportive for immune system, and then maybe putting on some On Guard, the blend, or a thieves blend that can help on your with your thyroid and all, just help bring those essential oil medicines into your brain and your body. We'll talk more about essential oils. We can't really get into right now, but they're useful. So this tool, Netzach, is emotions, energy and motion. As we're at home and we're quarantined, because we have to, not only because it's probably going to happen to us in our countries and states, but also as a preventative method because we care about everybody else. We're self-quarantining, if you haven't yet, because we want to tend to and do the preventive methods so that we can help contain this dynamic. As that's happening, it's very likely all kinds of emotions are coming up. And one of the things that one of my teachers has shared a lot about is emotions are energy in motion. And oftentimes, one of my teachers was like a transpersonal counseling psychology teacher that I studied with. Maggie Huang is her name. And she was sharing with me that when you start, as the energy and motion's coming up, start to get to know the temperature of it. Like, is it a hot emotion? Is it a cold emotion? Is it fast? Is it subtle? Is it subtly brewing? Get to know the quality of the emotion, what it feels like, what it tastes like, what it sounds like. This is where synesthesia comes in, where we start to cultivate the art of listening, the art of paying attention, and the art of tapping into what's going on the inside. And as that energy is in motion, that emotion, that energy can be useful to take care of things, support a friend, clean out, like, you know, oftentimes that classic thing when we clean out our fridge, we're cleaning out our insides too. It's bringing that level of awareness into everything we're doing. This is a way that energy in motion can be energy that helps to cultivate what you need to hone your craft, tend to your relationships, support the growth in your life. Because this time of quarantine, in some perspective, is coming here so that we can actually do the inner work that we forget to do because we're too busy running to the next and running to the next and running to the next, and learning about our relationships in our home and our relationships in our neighborhood. So with that comes energy in motion and the emotion. The same thing that we talked about with doubt, where you can have a little medicine and speak about what you want to take care of. You can offer that into the fire too. Any energy in motion, you can learning how to take care of yourself. And I gave you one already, so we're going to stick to the few. So far we've had how many rituals that have been passed? 3? So one is drinking the first prayer in the morning, making a prayer, some good thoughts, some good words to the water, offering the water, drinking the water every day, first thing. The purification ceremony ritual in the shower, where you soap yourself up all the way. You circulate 3 times and use in clockwise motion. I purify and cleanse myself with this water. I purify and cleanse myself. I purify and cleanse myself. Sometimes when we would get ready for major group rituals, we'd have to do that particular rite 3 times. So then you clean off, soap yourself again, do it 3 times, say it 3 times, circle 3 times, clean off, soap yourself again, circulate 3 times, saying it 3 times. Second ritual that's in past. Another one is, again, the first one, making offerings to, getting to know the names of the ancestors of the land you are inhabiting and saying their names, making offering to them. Also making an offering to your benevolent ancestors. And then we spoke about when we're as utilizing certain medicines in our neighborhood or in our homes that we already have, if there's an emotion coming up or a feeling of doubt, to make a prayer, speak out loud, and then let it go into the fire. If you don't have a fireplace in your home, you can also offer it to the earth and bury it with the earth. It feels so good to do that. Highly recommend it. Another thing too, if you're in cities and you don't have a fireplace or soil, you can do it with the water. Okay. All right. Moving forward. Where are we at with time? Sure. And how much time do we have? I'm just curious. Okay, great. So we'll take a question, then we'll move forward. Let's move Lilith to Tiferet, and then we'll move forward.
So Kate was asking about the origins of the Kabbalah.
Okay.
And we are going to do a whole class on that.
Yeah.
But she said that her understanding is that Kabbalah emerged in the 12th century. And what's the Kabbalah's connection to the Egyptians?
Well, this is where in a lot of different magical traditions, you have lots of different schools of thought and this common feeling of we were first kind of a thing. And this is where you get into post-flood or pre-flood and what lineage. Jewish Kabbalistic mysticism has a particular lineage and timeline. Egyptian Kabbalistic timelines are older. Hermetic Kabbalistic timelines are older. One of the stories is that the Kabbalah blueprint was received on Mount Sinai by the Archangel Metatron. When is a question. And this is why lineage and technologies pass forward and where you're getting the information is really, really important. Because oftentimes when you look online, you'll see all kinds of things and it's hard to decipher, particularly as an example with Kabbalah. It's hard to decipher. There are a lot of different lineages that have a lot of different purposes and functions and how they're worked within context of ritual. The older stories, as this blueprint is a blueprint in our DNA. It's actually, some say there, and is actually the blueprint of how the manifest world comes into creation. If you want to look into that particular side of things, the Resonance Academy with Nassim Haramein and Jamie Janover, they get into more of the geometric blueprint technologies. The Tree of Life is a big one. And in that context, way, way, way older because it's an actual geometry. And then if you want to, and then the lineage that I'm working in is a Hermetic Kabbalistic tradition, and with the Egyptian cosmology that's pre-flood. Flood 12,000 years ago, 10,500 BC. There's a story of we were the first after that, but what about what was before that? What about all of the beings? I'm sure some of us have heard of the Atlanteans and the Lemurians. The species, human and non-human, that were pre-flood, and the technologies and the wisdom and the teachings that were passed from that point to this timeline of our human species. So there's a little bit about that, and we can go into that more. We're going to start a basic Kabbalah series where we'll really dive into that one. So thank you for an amazing question. Great one. Big one. Okay. All right. So should we move forward? Okay, cool. So again, we ring the sistrum when we're moving to the next sphere. I like to refer to these spheres as spheres of consciousness. This sphere, which is in the middle there, this sphere is called Tiferet. sometimes referred to, the term is beauty. It's often referred to the heart. And in the context of a ritual program, a ritual technology, an altar, a ritual process, and a ritual flow, this is often the point where we really tap into the heart of this particular ritual and ceremony and what this is about. And oftentimes we'll do practices related. I looked into today, we're in the sun, Roxy and I were looking into today being in the sun of Pisces and the moon in Capricorn. And we looked up, let me take a sip real quick. Perfect, she's pointing at the sun. Tiferet, if you look at that glyph, let me bring it a little closer, you can see that all the paths touch that glyph. They all come into that glyph. And they radiate out from that glyph, and that's the sun. The classic Jesus statement, I am the Messiah, through me you will, and can you go back to that real quick? I am the Messiah, through me you will enter the kingdom of heaven. Some of the mystical studies around that is that he's talking about the sphere, because this sphere is often referred to as the Messiah. So when somebody's having like a Messiah complex, they're probably having an awakening in this sphere of consciousness. And what that means is that there is a relationship with all of these upper spheres of the unmanifest, and then these spheres of the manifest realm, where you actually see the divine nature of yourself that has a relationship with the spirit realm and the manifest realm. I'm the Messiah. Through me, these manifest realms, I am the Messiah. Through me, you will enter the kingdom of heaven, which is these upper spheres of consciousness, the divine human nature. That is what this sphere is about, and it's about the heart of this ritual. In looking up today, looking at the sun of Pisces and the moon in Capricorn, and also this Martian energy on the Tuesday, let me just drink this water again. It's very much about the mountain, and I thought that was quite interesting because this particular sphere is also related to the mountain. It's often sometimes called the mountain of the soul. And in Pisces, in the sun, one of the elements of the natural world that's associated with the sun is the mountain. And so in this way, what are the sacred mountains that are surrounding you or that are nearby you? Like what mountains, what are the names of the mountains? And what mountains where you were raised and where you grew up were those mountains? Because obviously, and we're all learning how to wake up to this more and more, everything's alive. You know, the standing ones, the cedar trees are alive, the crawling beings, the insect kingdom, and the ancestor stones, the stones are alive. They have a different timeline. They've been here way longer than us. Same thing with the mountains. The mountains are alive. They have a different timeline. And looking and tapping into the sacred mountains that are around you, that are in the lands that you are inhabiting, and that are connected to the lands from where you came from. And calling upon the strength of the mountain to help calm oneself and center oneself in this great time of transition, change, and adaptability to, you know, this time of learning how to adapt to changes. So one thing that you can do every day is say the names of the mountains, these sacred mountains, the one that's in where you live, and sacred mountains that you feel connected to around the world, and or one from where you came from. You can call upon those mountains and make offerings to those mountains through song, word, deed, or some medicines, which we talked a little bit about. And imagine yourself as that mountain of strength, where you're solid, you're clear, you're grounded, you're connected in your core. You have this connection point. I'm sure a lot of us have tune into this, where when we sit up like this in the classic yogic traditions, we have our crown and we're connected to that which is above, the cosmological energy, and we're grounded in that which is below, the elemental energy, on the blessings, living this blessed life on planet Earth. It's also connecting into as the mountain of the soul, you as a mountain, you as in this warrior nature. This is a way to support your warrior nature, becoming the mountain that's solid, that's strong, and that's tuned in and tapped in and turned on, just like Abraham Hicks says. So a very simple practice is call upon your sacred mountains, say their names out loud, especially if you start to feel shaky or ungrounded, or this energy of anxiety starts to rise because of, is there enough water? I got to go get the water, or I got to go get some more food in the grocery store before it's all sold out, or my medicine, and things like that. That energy of am I going to get my needs or needs for my family, or is my family getting their needs met? If that starts to build anxiety, take a deep breath, visualize these sacred mountains, say their names, call upon them, and embody oneself as the mountain. It's a very simple, very useful practice. And that's the heart of this particular rite, what this is about here today. The other elemental relationship that's connected to the moon in Capricorn today is the consciousness of the pool. And I think I reversed them. Yeah, pool is Pisces, Capricorn is mountain. The consciousness of the pool. Now, before I get to that, I just want to speak a little bit about Capricorn and mountain. So part of the Capricorn energy is, like a goat, like climbing the mountain, has this ambition, this purpose, and is going to do whatever it takes, work as hard as possible to get to the top of the mountain and observe all along the way. Also, this time of the mountain is to turn that inward, and the climbing up the mountain is going inside into the mountain that is yourself, to strengthen this vehicle and the heart, mind, body, and spirit, so we can tend to, care for, and adapt to the changes. And that's how that Capricornian energy can be turned in on the inside. The Piscean energy, oftentimes a symbol of a Pisces has two shapes like this, and then has a line across. This elemental energy is very much connected to the pool. The pool in relationship to the pool of consciousness, the water of water, the watery realms of consciousness. In the Egyptian cosmology, we come from the primordial waters where there's all this hydrogen and oxygen swirling in space. We come through these primordial waters into this physical realm. And then which we are mostly made of water, as I'm sure every single one of you know. Another reason why how you talk to yourself is how you're talking to the water and the nourishment you're giving to yourself. It's the same water here, that's the same water there. Just want to acknowledge that. And then also that we return back to those primordial waters. And so learning how to surrender into the pool of consciousness. And earlier we talked about the subtle sustaining intelligence, right? And we talked about the intelligence of faith, and we talked about the secrets of the spiritual activities. And so much of that is connected to learning how to relax into subtle consciousness, a pool of consciousness where we are tuned in. And that very much is related to oracular consciousness, which is another whole way of, we'll get into that another time. Learning how to relax into this pool of consciousness while maintaining the strength and the solidity and the core strength of the mountain, the internal mountain. So we can sit up fully aligned and face the life we've created, the suffering of the world, with insight into the interdependent web of all of our relations. Because there's no way out but through. And so the only way out is through. And so how do we move through these and through all day, every day, these times of great transition, which are going to take time? What are the ways that we do that? And so those are a couple simple ways. So for this week, relaxing into the pool of consciousness, remembering that the technology, the great ocean of consciousness reflects the technologies of the cosmos. At night when you see the ocean, you can see the stars. And that great ocean is that circle, that container that holds and cares for and creates that, supports that pool of consciousness. And then the stars is all that whirling pool of consciousness that from where we come from and where we return to, and what we are and who we are. And that which is above is that which is below. So learning the art of relaxing and surrendering into, while maintaining and cultivating that strength and that mountain, that internal mountain, to be able to face the suffering of the world with insight into the interdependent woven web of relationships. So that's what this sphere is about. Okay, so we're gonna move forward. And whatever offering we want, I think sage, no? Offer some sage.
There was a question about the heart.
Oh yeah.
If the heart of the ritual, Frank asked, does the heart of the ritual change with each day? And can it be tuned to the intention?
Yes, absolutely. So great question, Frank. So the way that I got this heart of the ritual today was I looked into, which we can send out, we can send out a chart, or you can look online. Every day of the week is associated with a planet. Thank you, darling. So you can look at what day of the week and what planetary energy you're working with. And then what's happening with the sun, and for those of you that are really into astrology or want to explore astrology, we'll just address two. Look at what sign is associated with the sun and what sign is associated with the moon. And then we'll send a chart that shows what planetary or what element in the natural world is related to it. And then that helps to get to know the heart of the ritual for that day, or ritual practices to cultivate or tune into for that day. And then oftentimes what's happening in the day it helps us understand what intention to set in alignment with the planet of the day, the astrological dynamics of the sun and the moon. And then if you are more into astrology, you can look at all the other planets too. Intention is everything. So thank you for bringing that up, Frank. And intention in alignment with the cosmos. Because part of what we're doing here, is the inner temple is the outer temple, as within, so without. That which is below is that which is that which is above is that which is below. We're learning how to align with the cosmological energies, the internal cosmological energies and the external cosmological energies, so that we start to move into that synchronic flow. What was that magical word my friend said? Synchro-mystic. We become synchro-mystic. Synchronicity. When we're tapping in, when we're building that relationship with the cosmological energy and with ourselves and our intentions and what we're manifesting in the world by the very act of waking up and breathing and saying words and stepping. Everything we're doing is manifesting something. When we clarify what we're manifesting and we take the time to bring forward, like you spoke of, that level of intention into everything we're doing, in alignment with what's happening cosmologically, we start to move into flow. Less of that conflicting, resistant energy. And then if we feel that Martian conflicting, resistant energy, we have practices to help see what that emotion is, and then get to know and work with that energy in motion to make an offering, to make the beauty we want to see in the world. So it's a really great question. Thank you for that. All right. So let's move forward. So we're going to move. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So we're going to move Lilith. Oh, real quick before we move. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, let's move Lilith to Deborah. All right. So that's where we're moving to. We went the serpent path. We went up like this. And now we're moving to the sphere. One of the beings that's associated with today, based on this rite, and we're going to spend some time with her tomorrow in Egyptian cosmology, is Sekhmet. Sekhmet is the lion-headed deity. I'm going to talk more about the Neteru tomorrow, but one of the key points of these beings, these deities, is, and maybe we could show the video to Sekhmet a little bit closer, is that they're qualities and principles of the natural world. oftentimes in the Egyptian cosmology, when we personify a deity, we're getting to know that quality of the natural world so that we can then invoke that quality to support us in all of our offerings moving forward. So Roxy's just getting a close-up of Sekhmet. She's one of our queens. We love her so much. She's a lion-headed goddess, and that right there in and of itself, I mean, I feel like a lot of us are connected to the lions. And lion is calling upon that courageous, sometimes severe, sharp energy, sometimes fiery energy to face our lives, the beds we've made for ourselves, our relationships, and the energy of the world, what's happening. So much to what we're needing to cultivate is the courage to see the world that we participated in manifesting. And in that way, when we face the world that we've created, and we've co-created, or also that has been handed to us from our passed down before from our ancestral lines, and we learn the art of ancestral healing, which we're going to do some work on too, then we know how to take care of things so that we can make more beauty in the world. So Sekhmet is very much about that. And when we get to the third day of class, when we get to divination, we're going to look at what offerings to make in the context of ancestral healing. So we're going to get to that Thursday. All right, moving forward. This is a lot. Is everyone doing good?
You're great.
Okay, good. Okay, Gevra. So this particular sphere of consciousness is related to today, which is why we're putting a lot of focus on it. So what I'd like to do is let's bring forward those tarot cards here.
All of them?
Yeah, all four. Let's just lay them so Roxy can show the video of them. We could put them maybe in a line over here. Oh yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so we have the Chariot, the Hanged Man, Justice, and Strength. Are those what the four you have right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Fortitude, strength.
yeah. She's going to run through, let's look at the Hangman first. So the first image that we imprinted in our consciousness, which is the Tree of Life glyph, it had the names of the spheres we're walking through, and then it also had the tarot pathways. Now, these tarot cards are archetypes that we all move through all the time in our lives. That particular image was related to the Paul Foster Case lineage, which is important to know because if you look into tarot and the Tree of Life, you'll see various different kinds of pathways and tarot associations. So you can just actually scroll over it because I'm going to speak quickly. So this particular sphere, Geburah, is the warrior, right? And the willingness to stand up for what you believe in and what you care about. The first one, which was the Hanged Man. Let's go back, sorry, thank you. So this one is like, it kind of feels that way. I mean, I don't feel like I need to describe it that much. We're kind of like suspended in this uncertainty. We don't really know what this afternoon, the evening's going to bring. We don't really know what tomorrow's going to bring. We're like suspended in this scenario. And this is also a really a beautiful way to approach this with that I've loved that was been passed to me is cultivating the art of contemplation along with meditation. You know, there's meditation, there's concentration, and then there's contemplation. And this is a really good time to really contemplate not only the reason why this has come at this time in our species, at this time in our lives, contemplate the life that you've created, what you're dependent upon, what you're needing, who are your relationships, that, you know, like the Hopi prophecy of, you know, I won't get into that right now, but who are your relationships, your neighborhood, where do you get your water from, where do you get your food from? Contemplate your web of relationships. Oh, thank you. Wow, 4:14, okay. Contemplate your web of relationships. Really utilize this time to get to know. As we're suspended here with uncertainty, this is where we evaluate everything. Evaluate what we value. One of the things I did a divination reading on the virus and why the virus has come at this time. And one of the main things it said to help us really look at what we value in a real way. And then it's a assessment, a reset of what we value to what is actually of value. So that's a little bit of the hangman. We have 15 minutes, so we're gonna move forward. The chariot in this context is about your vehicle, your body. This is a time, as we're suspended in this uncertainty, to cultivate your vehicle, your body. Get to take care of yourself, obviously. All the things you need to take care of yourself. This is something you can go online and find out a lot of resource and information how to take care of yourself. Also, too, because this vehicle, your body, is how you, I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, but how you move about through different realms in consciousness. So your vehicle. The next one, fortitude, strength. We talked a lot about strength. This is the time to really cultivate that mountainous quality where you are strong, you strengthen your core, you tune in, ground yourself all day, every day, and really in that way become the mountain and call upon that strength to be able to adapt in these changing transitional times. And then the other one is justice. You know, I mean, go into this one forever. This is really helping us take a really good look at what is unjust in the world, and also recognizing the undeviating justice in all circumstances of life. So this is a phrase I'm going to pass to you from Paul Foster Case in this particular sphere of the tree. And while she's showing that image, I'm going to say it 3 times. And if you want to write it down, you can. I recognize the undeviating justice in all circumstances of my life. I recognize the undeviating justice in all circumstances of my life. I recognize the undeviating justice in all circumstances of my life. So that is an offering that we're going to pass to you. Now, I'm going to speak really briefly about the technology of prayer because there's a couple things we need to do before we close up here. This particular sphere, Gebra, is also in the context of the way that we do ritual here in our lineage, which is an Oracle clan lineage, this is where we really look into the power of prayer. Now, the term prayer has been colonized, obviously. Some people are afraid, or I've even had like a previous partner tell me he didn't believe in prayer. And I realized, because he grew up as an altar boy and all of the trauma that was associated being an altar boy has basically taken the power of his own relation with creation away from him and the power of his word. And so part of what we're doing here is we're reclaiming our power that is empowering so that we can actually take care of ourselves and our relationships, human and non-human. So prayer. I want to speak about, for those of you that are really interested in the technology of prayer, there's a really amazing talk that my dear sister Vita Watson has done. And we're going to figure out a way to post that on the Living Village Culture site. So help me remember that, you guys. If you want to hear a really incredible hour-long, she does an incredible job talking about the technology of prayer. Another one is Greg Braden. Prayer, part of the power of prayer is, remember what we said, what we imagine that becomes our thought, that becomes our word, becomes our deed, our habits, our behaviors, and our destiny, the line of manifestation. The power of the word is everything. What we say sends a rippling effect into the web of our relationships. How we talk to ourselves, what we think about, that then becomes what we say, then moves towards what we do, that then becomes what we create. The technology of prayer, the way that I love to think about it in relationship to a man named Mindahi Bastida, this is how I heard him speak about it, Mindahi Bastida. He works with a lot of the sacred sites around the world. He was saying that in this time of climate crisis, as we are managing climate grief, and we're coming into realization of what is going on, and we're changing the language of how we address climate to creating beauty and becoming a part of the ecosystem again. The power of prayer is perhaps one of the most important things we can do. And somebody in the audience, this is when we did the climate change conference, it was like, well, why prayer? Because shouldn't we be doing something? And one of the things that he said was that when we take the time to pray, meaning use the power of our word, in acknowledgement that there's something bigger going on, something larger than us, there's something, a greater energy. When we take that time to communicate with that greater energy, we build an intimate relationship with that greater energy, that the power, the life force of creation. We build an intimate connection and communication and relationship. And then in that way, we start to learn how to talk to the creation energy. Some common terms are God, Allah, creator, great spirit, whatever term is best for you, and or life force energy. And building that communication and that relationship and calling upon that collaborative energy, it can help us tap into what we are designed to do, what our path of service is, how we can be of service in each and every day, and how we can make offerings of beauty that are beneficial and useful for future generations to come. And so we build that language and that communication, because sometimes it's hard to know what our purpose is, especially as things are changing, because what we thought our purpose was is evolving because the times are changing, and what we thought we were here to do has to change because of the bed that we've set for ourselves in this as a human species. And so the power of prayer and that communication and calling upon that collaborative relationship with creation and life force energy can help us start to tune into how we can be of service each and every day, and the art of giving, and then the art of forgiving, that then brings us back into the reciprocal flow of energy, giving and receiving. So a very simple way you can do that. In the Native American church, I'm a big student of the Native American church. So I just want to say thank you to all the Native American tribes and all of those that have been so willing to share with me. I'm super grateful. One of the ways that I've been taught by Hector Gomez and Cuatli Vesquez and a lot of other, and Marza, a lot of my elders, is you could take gather a little bit of tobacco, just a little bit, you don't need much. And I was always taught you want to come on your knees like this. Reason why is because you want to sit up in your prayer and align your Sushumna, your column, your center, in alignment with the crown, where you're connected to that which is above, and you're grounded in that which is below, and firmly in reverence to being a part of Mother Earth and sitting in Mother Earth. So sitting up like that, sitting up in your prayer, a little bit of tobacco. I was taught that tobacco is the key to Creator's heart. And then with that tobacco, holding that tobacco, I like to hold it in my right hand and make a prayer for your life. What I do things like, Creator God, grandmothers, grandfathers, thank you for my life. Yeah, I'll have a little tobacco. Make a little prayer right now. But then we're going to invite, your homework after this class is to do it and take your time. I'm just going to do a short one right now, and I'm going to do a longer one after that with the group here, just because we're almost done with this class. But Creator God, grandmothers, grandfathers, thank you for my life. Holy beings of the east, the south, the west, and the north, and holy beings of all the cross quarters too. Sun, moon, star nations, Mother Earth, my name, introduce yourself to this tobacco, this Isis Indria, Miss born in Miss Arizona, raised in the island of Guam. Thank you again for my life. I want to make prayer here at this time that I may be strong, and I attend to my body and my heart and my mind and my spirit, and tend to myself so I may tend to my relations, human and non-human, and really sit up in myself and be responsible for everything I imagine, think, say, and do, so that I'm more aware of the rippling effect of what I create through what I imagine, think, say, and do. And in this time, as really the spirit of this virus is calling upon us to sit here and basically enter a circle of this quarantine energy to come in. I pray to utilize this time in a good way and take the time to contemplate what I need to contemplate about of every area of my life, everything that I have been doing in my life and my family and the way that I've set up my life, and that I take the time to really get to know how interdependent we really are, and in that way make choices that support the local community and support my local relationships. Thinking globally, but cultivating and supporting locally. And in that way, relaxing into this pool of consciousness in this time of great conscious awareness and awakening, and also sitting strong in my strength and as a mountain. Strong in my faith and awakening this subtle, sustaining energy of faith too, and really taking the time to tap into the secret spiritual technologies that help me take care of myself so I can take care of my relations and people. And in that way, may all that has been offered here in this time that I'm taking here with this medicine be a gift offered and received, and nourish all of my relationships, human and non-human. Blessed be. Thank you. So that's a way you can work with the tobacco medicine, just like that. And I encourage each and every one of you to do that right after this class, so that you're actually, and this is something that you can do every day too. Again, you only need a little bit. All right. So I think we have, how many more minutes do we have? We want to do the 42 ideas. What time is it? Okay. So we're going to go over a little bit. We're going to finish one particular right now. And then for those of you that need to go, because it is 4:30, for those of you that want to stay, we'll go over some question and answer. It's really nice if the tobacco is grown, where if you grow the seed yourself and it's tobacco that you cultivated, that's ideal. If not, and you're at home and whatever tobacco you do have, use that. Oftentimes, I love it when I know where the tobacco is grown and where it came from. If I'm not in the privilege to get to work with that tobacco, then sometimes I'll work with American Spirits. So that's at the local shop, or tobacco that's around me. But again, the cultivation of your own hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits for the sacred medicines that you work with is a whole other level. And then, it taps us back into farming in a simple way. Even if we live in a city and we plant the tobacco in our pot right there, we have some here. And then we dry that tobacco and we pray with that tobacco. It's a whole other level. So that's the goal, I would suggest. But if you don't have that kind of access, whatever you have with you, and then also, American, still it's not ideal, or tobacco where you knew it grew from. Again, it's like what you have. And also, and really what's in your local community. This is also a time for us to get to know our local community, what's here. And obviously some of us are already starting our quarantine right now, so it's not about going out to get more. And if you don't have any tobacco in your home and you are doing the self-quarantine right now, or you're in a quarantine because it's given to you at this time, it's also, you can work with a plant or a medicine that's right in your home or around your home, and pray with it and offer it to the fire. That's something you can do. A lot of it's connected to the power of your word. The power of your word and the time you take is key. Okay? Perfect. Call in the spirit of the tobacco if you don't have any. Calling in the spirit of the tobacco if you don't have any. Great, thank you. All right. So for the last few minutes, and then we'll go into question and answer for those that want to stay. We're going to do two things. I'm going to offer you a hand motion, a body motion you can do that's instead of like hugging. Because like a lot of what we've been thinking about, like, oh, I don't know about hugging right now, or touching. And then also we're going to go through the 42 ideals, because what the board had said when I did a divination reading was that a lot of why this virus is around is to help us do an internal system of checks and balances, like check in on who we are and what we're really doing. And then also what we value, our value systems. Okay, so the motion, I know we have a couple moments, that I'm going to pass to you is a way that you can relate and greet your loved ones. This is connected to Osiris, and we're going to go over the technologies and the medicine of Osiris tomorrow in Egyptian cosmology. What you can do is with your arms like this, crossed. Some like to do their right over their left, some do left over right. Do what's comfortable for you. They mean different things, but ultimately do what's comfortable for you. And when you see your loved ones, do that and bow. And that's a sign of like empowerment and power, humility, and respect. So you're like, you empower yourself just like this. And then from that empowered self, you humbly, in respect and in gratitude, bow to your loved ones and your relationships. And then you also are keeping your power contained. And you're keeping that channel of your power contained. So it's strong, and it's a strong feeling. Like, if you feel it, it feels strong, you know? And we'll go into more about that tomorrow and what all this means. But this is another one I just want to pass to you to work with, a way to greet our loved ones. All right. And then the final thing we're going to do, and then we'll move into question and answer. The final ritual we're going to pass is we're going to bring up the 42. We're going to talk about Ma'at tomorrow too. Ma'at oftentimes has the feather of justice. And remember what we talked about with Gebra in this tree. Oh, and real quick too, in the tree, where we've already started to move like this, but I realized the time, so we didn't do it as like one by one. So let's just do it real quick here. Let's move Lilith over to Hesed. Okay, we did the Hesed right. Now let's move over to Bina. I'm going to move her over there to the water. And then you're going to take the top off, just like that. Yep. And then we're going to move Lilith over to Chokmah. And that's the Osera movement we just did. All right. And then now we're going to move it to Keter, the crown. So that was a quick motion through it. Again, once we do the Kabbalah ritual classes, we'll take more time with each sphere. Okay. So now we're going to pull up, I know we have a couple minutes, the 42 ideals of Ma'at. And we're going to do this group ritual all together. May I have that paper down? Thank you. Okay. The other one. Roxy, the other one. Mm-hmm. All right, so this movement, I'm going to invite each and every one of you to, I know, and if you have to go, that's okay. I know it's 4:32. Just repeat after me, and we're going to go through these 42 ideals. And these ideals are the virtues and the value systems, the internal system of checks and balances that the ancient Egyptians worked with. And we'll talk more about this right tomorrow. And so go ahead and photograph as you wish. And then I'm going to say one out loud and then just repeat after me. And we're going to go through all 42. I won't be able to hear you, but I'm just going to roll through it. Okay. And then maybe you can repeat after me, both of you. Okay. I honor virtue. I benefit with gratitude. I am peaceful. I respect the property of others. I affirm that all life is sacred. I give offerings that are genuine. I live in truth. I regard all altars with respect. I speak with sincerity. I consume only my fair share. I offer words of good intent. I relate in peace. I honor animals with reverence. I can be trusted. I care for the earth. I keep my own counsel. I speak positively of others. I remain in balance with my emotions. I am trustful in my relationships. I hold purity in high esteem. I spread joy. I do the best I can. I communicate with compassion. I listen to opposing opinions. I create harmony. I invoke laughter. I am open to love in various forms. I am forgiving. I am kind. I act respectfully of others. I am accepting. I follow my inner guidance. I converse with awareness. I do good. I give blessings. I keep the waters pure. I speak with good intent. I praise the goddess and the god. I am humble. I achieve with integrity. I advance through my own abilities. I embrace the all. Now let's offer some camphor. All right. Thank you. So thank you very much, everybody. For those that want to stay, we're going to do a half an hour of questions. Before we go into questions, and then we'll close up here after that, through our site, livingvillageculture.com, we're going to post what the divination board, and we'll get more into divination in the divination class on Thursday, but we're going to post what the divination board suggested in terms of offerings, because ultimately with the art of ritual, the function is to make of our life a path of service, making of our life an offering, to make the beauty we want to see in the world. So much about this is to tune ourselves up, to then tune into our relationships and make of our life an offering of beauty. And with that comes learning how to make offerings. So we're going to post in the next couple of days on the livingvillageculture.com site what the board said in terms of making offerings. And then we're going to review it on Thursday. And for those of you that want to be a part of that, we just want to invite you. And I passed a bunch of rituals for those that are going to go before we go into question and answer. Please, if you can, make time today to make a prayer, either with some tobacco that you have or the spirit of calling upon the spirit of the tobacco to make a prayer for your life. Again, remember, on your knees, sitting up in your prayer with creation and using the power of your word. Your word is really important, because what happens is it helps refine the thoughts into eloquent prayer and speech. And so that's introduction of the beginnings of the art of ritual. And please utilize all the rituals that were passed today. They're very helpful, they're very useful, as you wish. And then next week we'll do this again, and new rituals will come forward. And again, the way we do feel into what rituals want to be offered are very much connected to the energy of the day, what's happening in the cosmos in relationship to what we need. So thank you for those that need to go. Thank you so much. A gift and honor to be here and offering this in this way. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing. This 42 Ideals of Ma'at, this translation is from Lady Olivia from the Fellowship of Isis. Just want to say her name here. Lady Olivia from the Fellowship of Isis. All right. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, this is all recorded, and we'll post the recording
On Living Village Culture site. Yeah. Oh, one more thing too, for those before you go, we finally, with the great blessing of these two boss women that are my bosses, Roxanne and Sonia, we finally birthed the Academy of Oracle Arts. And so a lot of this is going to move to the Academy of Oracle Oracle Arts coming soon. So, but for now, all this information will be posted at livingvillageculture.com, which is also a part of the Academy. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone want to say anything? It'd be nice to hear a voice.
Hi, Isis.
We did, but I just gave them homework to do it.
Hello. Hi.
Anyone? Nothing?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
I can hear you.
So tomorrow, another free class is going to be Egyptian cosmology, and why I love to. I think it's important to. Oh.
Try talking now.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Yay.
Hi, beautifuls. Yay. Jazzy.
I just want to
So
say thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosa. I've taken so many art of ritual classes with you, and every time I learn so many things. I just learned so many things, you know. It's like an endless journey, an infinite journey of creating beauty. So thanks for this gift today at this time. It's really beautiful.
And real quick, I just want everyone to know Maz, my bosses, Maz, Laura, Roxanne, and Sonia here, my boss.
If anyone else wants to say anything else, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Isis. It's Tiffany Janae.
Hey!
Hi. I just wanted to give thanks so much for this class and the offering of making it available to all of us. It's really tough times and super bummed about LIB and was definitely looking forward to the teachings that would come from the gathering. But to be able to experience this, I learned so much and took so many great notes. So thank you for the generosity and just supporting the community in this way. So much love to you and all your priestesses there.
Love you, babe.
I love you too.
Hey, love. It's Natalia.
Hey.
So amazing to have this resource online and everything you're sharing. Like, this is so needed right now in these times we're in. So thank you for just bringing it back inward and in that whole place of that inner reflection and that inner listening that all of this is asking of us. Thank you, ladies. It's beautiful.
Talia, I love you. I can't wait to hope. I'm excited after this quarantine to see you and Asen and Judy.
Yay.
Love you.
Hi, Isis. It's Missy.
Missy from Oz.
Oh, nice. Look at you.
Whoa.
Oh, I love you guys.
Oh, I love you too. Missy. Wow.
I'm so tapped in right now. I just want to say so much gratitude as usual. I put so much stuff from the Serpent Path into practice here, and I'm going to hold a couple of little ceremonies online this weekend for my community in Australia, and it's been really helpful with keeping our creative space together because there's over 60 people in that space, creative space, and I really want to, I've been using the tools to kind of keep that community together. So thank you so much. It's been really incredible for my community here and grassroots level.
I'm so happy to hear that. Thanks for holding the circles there, keeping it moving forward. So happy about that. Awesome.
Yay.
Australia.
Ooh, it's breaking up a bit, but thank you. Love you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to do Egyptian cosmology, introduction to Egyptian cosmology. So we're going to go into the Neteru, specific Neteru we worked with today. And so we learn how there's the technology of prayer, and then there's also, in a safe, clear way, learning how to call upon energies of the natural world to support us in our life of offering. So we're going to go over some of that tomorrow. And then Thursday, we're going to start to learn about divination and how divination functions and works in relation to a specific tool that we use here, and how to work with divination to see how to make offerings, so that this inner temple work that we're doing, we then can, with our heart, mind, body, and spirit, make offerings of beauty that feed and nourish creation and give back to all of these beings, human and non-human beings, that give to us all the time. So it's learning how to create a culture of giving in that way too. So thank you all so much, and all blessings in this powerful time, and for all the reasons that this has come together at this time. May it really help us strengthen our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits, strengthen our relationships with the non-human world, because we are all related, and really do the inner work that becomes the outer work, so we actually can continue to, from a clear place, create the beauty we want to see in the world for 7 generations into the future. And may this time of inner cultivation and honing of our craft and slowing down really bring forward innovative wisdom and technologies and new ways of thinking about this world, so that when we move through this, we can start to make that world in a very, very clear way. Thank you to all of our teachers and our guides. Thank you to our benevolent ancestors, and thank you to the ancestral homelands that we are all blessed to live in, and all of the tribes and all the ancestral homelands that we're living in. Thank you so much, and thank you again to all the holy beings of the 8 directions. And may all that has been offered here be a gift, and may it nourish and feed creation. Blessed be Yoho. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Have a beautiful evening. All right.